All right, guys, welcome back. This week, we're going to be talking about a concept rather than a specific passage in the Bible. I want to talk about the concept of worry. What is worry? What is anxiety? What is all this confusion that we deal with, that we struggle with? So, let's break it down. Let's break down what worry is. So, I have something in my life, you have something in your life that is out of our control. Could be anything. It could be the littlest thing in the world. It could be the biggest thing in the world. But it's something that's in our life that's out of our control. Most things are out of our control. Pretty much everything is out of our control, actually. So we can worry about anything. We can worry about the littlest things and make them the biggest things in the world, or we can take the biggest things in the world and trust the Lord with them and not worry about them at all. So we start from this foundation. Okay, so worry is this thing that is in my mind as something I'm not in control of, something that I want an expected destination, but I don't know that I'm going to get it. So let's say I'm buying a house, okay? And in this search for buying a house, let's say, okay, I have so many different variables in front of me, from the different house that I have to choose, to the area that I have to choose the house in, to the things the house has to offer, to the land the house has, to does it have good Wi-Fi? Is there good cell service where the house is? How close am I to my work? How close am I to the nearest movie theater? How close am I to, XYZ? There's a million different things that go into it. And I think the more variables there are in something, the more worry it can cause. So, like in this example of purchasing a house, okay, there's a million different variables, so all those things stack up. And it goes from being one little thing to just a mountain of worry. A mountain of different things that get inside of our minds and tell us that we need to jump in the driver's seat, be in control. So I wanted to read this verse. It's from 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 6 through 7. It's from Hannah's prayer. She's praying. She's just been told that she's going to have a child after she was barren. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. And I want to read Isaiah 55, verse 2. Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which satisfieth not? So if we look at those two different passages, let's start in 1 Samuel chapter 2. The Lord killeth, the Lord maketh alive. So the biggest thing that can happen to us in our life, obviously, is the beginning or end of our life. The Lord kills, the Lord maketh alive. He's a powerful God. He brings down to the grave, he bringeth up. You can see that in the Bible, the stories of all the different people who have been led to their demise from in the Old Testament, when the Israelites are leaving their Egyptian captivity, and the Lord opens the ground up and it swallows all of the people who sided with the golden calf and Dathan, and the Lord bringeth up from the grave. He brought up Lazarus from the grave. He raised people from the dead. And then we can go read Isaiah 55 too. Why do you spend money for things that aren't bread, and spend your labor on that which does not satisfy? So that can pertain to worry. That can pertain to this anxiety. That can pertain to things that we don't have a grasp on. Why are we spending our time and effort on things that don't satisfy us, things that we don't have control over? So we take this thing, the starting point again, worry. And it grows in our mind, and these things add up. So we're worried about, okay, I'm worried about the house that I want to buy. And then on top of that, I'm worried about my work. And on top of that, I'm worried about my friends. On top of that, I'm worried about my family. On top of that, I'm worried about what I'm going to do on Friday night. And on top of that, I'm worried about, let's just say I'm worried that I'm going bald, right? Let's just say there's a million different things. Everybody has a stack of different things in their life that they would change if they could. They would make different if they could. Well, here's the thing. we're not going to add a day to our life or a hair to our head from the worry that we have in our life. And oftentimes in my own life, when I start to worry, I realize that I'm forgetting that it's God who's in control, that it's God who has ordained what's going to happen to us. And I forget all these different things. The passage we read in Isaiah, we can read in Isaiah chapter 40 is one of the best chapters in the Bible. Isaiah 40 verse 8, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. Isaiah chapter 43, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they will not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. Neither the flame shall kindle upon thee. Verse 11, I, even I, am the Lord. Beside me there is no Savior. I have declared, and I have saved. I have showed when there was no strange God among you. Therefore you are my witnesses, says the Lord, that I am God. Yes, before the day was, I am He. There is none who can deliver out of my hand. I will work, and who shall let it? So then there's this concept here, I will work and who shall let it? God tells us, I will work and who shall let it? I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You're going to allow me? You're going to change what I'm going to do, says God to us. And the answer to that is no. It's a rhetorical question. We do not allow God to do anything that He does. So then that opens up another wormhole. Okay, so I'm worried, but then I realize God's going to do what God's going to do. And no matter what, His will is going to come to be. So does that mean that I should no longer try to do anything in my life because God's just going to take care of it? Does that mean that I can sit back and lay in my bed all day and say, you know what? He says, I am God, and who's gonna tell me what to do? My will is going to be done. So if His will is going to be done, I don't really have any concern or worry or anything I should do. I should lay around and do nothing all day. I should be content and happy to do whatever my heart desires. Well, I think there's a fair point there, but then we can refer to another point of the Bible. We can refer to Ecclesiastes chapter 12. In verse 9, it says, rejoice, O young man. O young man, this man, let's just imagine in our minds this man has an endless valley and mountaintop. Endless valleys and mountaintops in front of him, of possibilities, of combinations of life, of everything in front of him. This young man has endless resources and endless possibilities. Rejoice, young man, in your youth. Let your heart cheer you in the days of youth, and walk in the ways of your own heart and in the sight of thine eyes. So this first part of verse 9, it's Solomon saying, yeah, do whatever you want. Go wherever you want. Lay in your bed all day and go to sleep. Climb the highest mountain. Go do whatever you want. Chase the pleasures of the world. Grab onto the world with both hands if you want. Do whatever you want, however you want to do it. But, the next word in this verse, but know thou that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. Verse 10, therefore remove sorrow from thy heart and put away evil from thy flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity. I'm sorry, that was Ecclesiastes chapter 11. That wasn't Ecclesiastes chapter 12. We're told here in the end of verse 9 and verse 10, know thou that for all the things you do, God will bring you into judgment. Therefore remove sorrow from thy heart, put away evil from thy flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity. So what does this mean to remove sorrow from thy heart? I think that the premise of Ecclesiastes, we can read in chapter 9 especially. Chapter 9 talks about living your life joyfully. And kind of the whole book of Ecclesiastes, close your eyes and think, okay, I'm dying. I'm looking up from my grave. I'm being lowered into my grave, but I can see up one last time. And I'm looking back at my life. And I'm seeing everything that I've done. What will I have been proud to have done? What will I regret to have done? And here it says, remove sorrow from your heart. So don't do things that are going to cause you to sorrow. Don't live your life in a way that you'll regret. Don't do things that are going to cause you to stumble, to fall from God, to fall from God's grace, to fall from God's light. So that's the start, is remove sorrow from your heart. Stop doing all these things that are causing you to sorrow, to go wrong. We can read all throughout the works of Solomon. If you read the book of Proverbs, you can see a lot of different ways that we're called to live. Some practical advice And you can read about the fear of the Lord in Proverbs chapter 9, Proverbs chapter 8, chapter 9, verse 13 of Proverbs chapter 8. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogancy, and the evil way, the forward mouth, I do hate. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The knowledge of the holy is understanding. For by me thy days shall be multiplied, the years of thy life shall be increased. So knowing God and knowing who he is and knowing what he calls us to do gives us a way to live without having sorrow in our heart. And that's the first part of this verse. The second part, put away evil from thy flesh. That ties into the first part. But then it goes back to this question of, okay, how do I live my life? If God's in control, if God's taking care of everything, why don't I just do nothing? Why don't I just completely do nothing and take my hands off of my life and say, God, if you're in control, do whatever you want. I'm going to just lay here and do nothing. Well, I mean, first of all, that just isn't smart to do. We're called to be wise. We're called to be wise as serpents, innocent as doves, and I don't think that's a wise thing to do. We're told to steward what we have. We can read in the Gospels about the man who was given talents and gifts. That there were 3 different men. One was given, I think there was one who was given one was given 2 talents, one was given 5 talents, and these were just different amounts of money that were a pretty darn big amount of money back in the day. And these men stewarded what they were given differently. And I think that brings up a good point with us, with you and I, with everyone we know. Is it's a really an encouraging quote from C.S. Lewis in his book Mere Christianity, I believe, where he talks about how we're not, you and I and everyone in this world, if you look around at your friends, your family, your acquaintances, people you know, people you don't know, people on TV shows, people in it doesn't matter where, everyone, we're not all climbing the same mountain. I don't have the same mountain to climb that you do, with the same obstacles and the same struggles, the same tribulations, the same trials, the same mental problems, the same compromises, the same path to walk. We have different paths to walk, and someone's path up their own life's mountain and then ending up in heaven could be a completely smooth path up a 5,000 foot mountain where they just walk, and on the right hand side there's little apple trees and birds chirping, and on the left side there's some fruit bushes and some orange trees and a nice little stream where they can stop and get a drink, and they just walk throughout their whole life with no problem and no adversity and no trials, and they make it to heaven. And then you've got another person, maybe it's your life, maybe it's your story, where their climb up their mountain is horrid. It's horrible. They take 2 steps and then the path disappears and there's a completely flat rock surface. You can't get up, and it's storming and there's lightning and rain, and there's no fruit trees on the right side or stream on the left side, and there's these vultures that are just trying to peck out your eyes the whole time, and wolves and lions, and the path goes left and right, and there's a cave here that you didn't see, and a cavern in a valley, and you can't make it up this mountain, but you can't go 5 feet without falling into another obstacle, and every step you're stumbling and falling, but you're getting up and you're taking another step, and so C.S. Lewis makes this point that everyone's life, everyone's path to glory, to heaven, to this ultimate glorification is different. And maybe someone's mountain they have to climb has so many struggles and so many obstacles and so much pain, but the Lord sees that and he rewards the people who struggle through all of those different obstacles and all of those different pains because they're doing it for him. And maybe that person who didn't even make it near as far or progress near as far or seemingly do so much or live such a clean and unaffected life, maybe that person who has so much in their life's path is rewarded more by God because they stewarded what they had better. And maybe the person who has a smooth path up, maybe they're just lollygagging. Maybe they're just taking a step here and taking a step there and snoozing on the side of the road and not really doing much with what they've been given. And again, it's back to the concept of talents, concept of stewarding what we've been given. And it's an encouraging concept that with what we've been given in our life, everyone's different. Everyone has different problems and a different mountain to climb. So my mountain's different than your mountain. Your mountain has obstacles and problems and curves in your path and pitfalls and adversaries and demons and everything coming at you that your brother or sister or mother or father or husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or friend or cousin, or they have different paths. Everyone has a different path. And so I guess a word on that is just to treat people with grace, but also to remember that the best we can do is the best that we can do. And we shouldn't compare ourselves to one another, because our mark is not our friend who's doing super good, or our friend who's doing super bad, so let's just do a little bit better than them. No, our mark is Christ, is perfection. And that's what we're chasing. When we're climbing this sheer rock face, we don't know how we're going to get up, and just grasping at something to try to grab on, to take another step. We remember the image of Christ, who lived a perfect life and died for us. And that's our goal. That's what we strive after. Put away evil from your flesh, whether it's by clawing another step and barely making it one step up, two steps up, three steps up, and keeping on going. Or whether it's a season of our life where the Lord seen fit to bless us and give us ease in our walk, and we take these steps with ease. We're moving towards Him, and that's the goal. So remember this. We're told to put away sorrow, to put away evil from our flesh, because childhood and youth are vanity. They'll be gone. And then Ecclesiastes chapter 12, we could go through this whole passage, this whole book. But it talks about when your days are over, when your eyes are darkened, when your teeth shatter and fall out. When the dust returns to the dust, we will answer to Him. We'll return to God. So remember that. I don't exactly remember how I got on that tangent. I know I started with talking about worry. I don't know how I got on that tangent, to be fully honest. But back to worry. Just remembering that we do have a God that's in control. And back to our passage in Isaiah 55. Why do you spend money on that which isn't bread? Why are we wasting our money and our time on things that don't draw us closer to Him? Why are we wasting our money and time on worry, on thinking that we have control over anything, or over anything in this world? We're so small and we're so insignificant, and we're just human beings that are placed in this world. It's like the potter and clay analogy. We've been put in this world by a great potter, by the Creator, by the Sustainer. And we think that we are going to be in control of anything. We think that we have the ability to worry our way into affecting the result of something. I guess the bottom line is, worry's not going to do us any good. Yes, be prudent. Yes, work hard. Yes, do the best that we can. But ultimately, the result is in the hands of God. I think it's Ecclesiastes 9, verse 1 here. For all this I considered in my heart, even to declare all this, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. No man knows either love or hatred by all that is before them. So we've got to remember that everything we do is in the hands of God. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 tell us to trust in the Lord with our whole heart, to not lean on our own understanding, because our understanding is flawed. But what's the verse? The ways of man, the heart of man is desperately wicked. Who can know it? We don't know it. So trust in the Lord with our whole heart. Lean not on our own understanding. In all our ways acknowledge Him. He will direct our steps. So if we rely on Him, if we use the assets He's put in our lives, whether He's specifically talented us in one area, we lean into that a little bit more. Whether He's put a figure in our life who's knowledgeable in some area, and a mentor, a father, a mother, a friend, someone who's able to speak to us and help us out in some area that we need help with, or shepherd us, or the power of prayer and reading the Word and learning what He has to say and having it as a function in our life, like we talked about with Mary, how when she was confronted with adversity in her life, she knew the Word so well that she spoke it out. And it was how her internal position was placed towards God. All these different things we can do to combat worry, fear. And I watched the David movie recently that came out, and man, that touched me. And you can look at the worry thing as comparing Saul and David. So Saul and David were eerily similar in their beginnings. So Saul was chosen when he was in the field taking care of his father's donkeys. David was chosen when he was out in the field taking care of his father's sheep. And the end result of their lives were so different. Saul was full of pride and he was self-serving. And he overstepped God and put himself in the shoes of God and did all sorts of things he shouldn't have done. And he was constantly worried. He was constantly afraid. He was scared of his own shadow, because he was always afraid of David. He was afraid of someone overtaking him, someone killing him. Meanwhile, David was afraid of nothing. He was worried of nothing. He faced the Philistine giant Goliath with no fear in his heart, and confronted him. This little boy confronted this humongous giant. He fought lions, he fought bears. He ran from Saul and had the chance to kill Saul, but would not touch God's anointed. And we just see this vast difference. And it's just, this verse is such a beautiful verse. I think it's 1 Samuel 13 verse 14, and it says that it's whenever the Saul he sacrifices he does a sacrifice without Samuel being there, because Samuel's like a week late or something like that, and it was just a big violation of what God said to do. And then Samuel shows up and finds out, and Samuel's essentially like, look, the kingdom's been taken from you. It's no longer, you're no longer going to be the king. It won't run through you anymore. Your line's not going to be the line of kings. And he says that the Lord is seeking a man after his own heart. And that is so telling, because David was such a screw up a lot of the time, and David did so much stuff that he shouldn't have done that he paid for later. I mean, the sins he committed, he paid for later. But his heart, what he was positioned on, he wasn't a perfect man, but it was on God. And when he was confronted with all these different situations, you can read through the Psalms. Most of the Psalms are written by David. His heart pointed to God, and his heart pointed to where it belonged, which was with God, praying for help from God. And he wasn't worried and trying to grab onto life with his own hands. He trusted that God was in control, and he says to the Philistine giant, I'll turn to the passage. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 17. He says, verse 37, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And then in verse 45, he says, David says to the Philistine, you come at me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. David doesn't point to his own strength. David points to the strength of his creator, his God, his friend, his sustainer, the God of his fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it's our God. That's our God that we believe in, Jesus Christ. So the final word on worry is this, I think, that we should point our hearts and our minds and our thoughts heavenward when we have these worries in our mind of God, why haven't you done this? God, I have to do this. God, I have to do that. God, how do I make this decision? Well, David looked up. David said, you know what? God's got me. God's going to take care of this Philistine giant. I don't come at you with this really cool sling that moves 550 miles an hour and it's going to plant this stone in the middle of your forehead. No, he says that he's coming with God, that Goliath insulted, that Goliath said he could defeat. The God of the Israelites was what David believed in. And that's what we believe in as well, as the same God. So let's do that. Let's not worry. Let's believe in a God that's bigger than the things we worry about. Hope you have a good week. Goodbye.